Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF Yomi Bava Metzia Tzadi Dalet. We're holding at the Mishnah, which is at the fourth line from the top of the Amud. So we have learned yesterday that there are several levels of a Shemer, meaning a fellow who's watching something free of charge. He has a very minimal level of responsibility, right? He's only chayav if he's absolutely careless. Whereas a Shemer Sachar, a fellow who's getting paid for his service, that upgrades his level of achrayus. He's committed to more than just a Shemer Chinam. In his case, if gets lost or stolen, he's also responsible. Okay, a Shayel has the highest degree of achrayus. By him, anything that happens, practically almost anything that happens, even an oinus, even if the item was taken away, it was damaged, it was an oinus, total accident, he is chayiv. Says the Mishnah, but we can sort of manipulate these, rewrite the rules. If you make it tanai, if you condition it, if you stipulate it upon accepting the item, masne shemer chinam liyes pater mishvua. A shemer chinam could say, look, upon acceptance of the item, he says, look, I'll do this for you, on condition you never compel me to swear. I don't like making oaths. So no matter what happens, no matter what I claim, I'm off the hook. Okay? So if I tell you it was stolen, believe me. If I tell you it was an accident, believe me. V'ashoyel liyes pater milashalim. Likewise, even a fellow who's borrowing an item can say, look, I want to exempt myself. I want to deviate from these standard rules applicable to a shoyel. Something happens, it gets lost, stolen, oinus, I'm pater. You can do that. Likewise, a fellow who's taking a fee for guarding the item, or a fellow who's renting an item. So they have their own obligations, and they could rewrite the rules as well. They can stipulate that they're doing it only if they're pater. Liyes petur mishvua umilashalim. We don't want to make a shvua if there was an oinus. We don't want to pay if it was stolen or lost. You can do that. And the Gemara, of course, will have to explain to us exactly how this works. So even though technically a person has to conform, right? But you can, if the initial commitment, right, was a very minimal commitment, right? As long as it involves, monetary issues, you can do that if both sides agree to the stipulation. But the Mishnah continues. Typically, you can't do that. A person conditions against the Torah. Torah says one thing, and he says, "No, I'm not accepting that. I'm only doing it on condition that you can't do that. No, batal. His tanai's condition is null and void." Okay, on the topic of conditions, says the Mishnah, "Mechol tanai sheish ma'asa b'tchilasoi tanai batal." If you want to make an effective, successful condition, you have to sequence it in the following way. You have to say, look, if this and this happens, then this should go through. You can't go the other way. You can't say, well, we're going to do this and this on condition that too late. Once you've committed, you can't condition it upon a certain condition. So in order for the tanai to have legal validity, and the masa, the action should be subject to that condition, you have to state the condition first. That needs to precede the reference to the actual, the actual result, the effect, the outcome. B'chol tanai, a condition sheyesh masa, where the act, the result, the outcome is discussed before the condition. Sheyesh masha b'tchilas tanai batal. It doesn't. The condition does not take effect. B'chol she'ef shaloi l'kameh b'seifai, concludes the Mishnah. A tanai is only workable if it's workable, if it's practical. If you can be mekayim the condition, and in fact it was stipulated as initially as a condition, then in fact it has legal validity, it's binding, no ikayim. But if it's not a practical condition, then just ignore it. So the Mishnah began that a shemer chinam, a shemer sachar, they could revise the standard rules. They can make their own rules, so to speak. How could you do that? The Torah tells you the way to do it. Aren't you pretty much going against the stated laws of the Torah? And the Mishnah itself, a line later, tells us you can't do that. What happens? We ignore it. So how can you do this? How can a Shemer say, look, I'm only doing it on condition that I won't have to swear? The Torah says you have to swear. Answers the Gemara, Hamani Rabbi Yehuda. The Mishnah apparently is following Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, who says the Amar b'davar shebe mamayin t'no'ikaim. True, one cannot change the rules of the Torah, but when it involves monetary commitments, such as Shemer chinam and all these interpersonal monetary commitments, you can do that. A person can forego a claim, right? As long as it involves mamayin, you can pretty much condition anything. The Sanya, as we find in Ibrahim, Ha'imra Isha, the classic case, he approaches an Isha, Hariyat Mukadeshasli, right? I'm doing Kedushin with you, on condition that I absolve myself from pretty much everything a husband is typically committed to. Amana she'en chalai, you will not have on me the following claims: Sheir, Ksus, Vaina. Right? No, I don't have to support you. Ksus, no garment. Ksoina. I don't have to buy you clothing. I don't have to be with you physically. Harizim Kadeshis. So the condition takes effect. Utanai Batal. We ignore his conditioning. That's Rameir Shita. Divra Rameir. You cannot make it Tanai, which goes against the stated laws of the Torah. Torah says a marriage entails these commitments. You can't wiggle out of that. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees to a certain extent. Rabbi Yehuda Omer b'dava shebe mamin. When it comes to the monetary aspects of the marriage commitment, such as sheir and ksus, those first two, t'no'ikaim, you can condition against that. So back to our Mishnah. When it comes to revising these Shemer responsibility rules, these are monetary issues. You can do that. Asks the Gemara Kasha. How can you suggest that our Mishnah is following Rabbi Yehuda's Shita Ema Seifa? Because let's proceed to the next part of the Mishnah, where it says that there's a very specific sequence that has to be followed for the Tanai to take effect, right? Sorry, that's the next kasha. The first kasha is, take a look at the next line of the Mishnah. Any type of condition which goes against the Torah is batal. That seems to be following Rab Meir without differentiation. No difference if it's monetary or otherwise. Asan and Rab Meir, that follows Rab Meir's Shita. Not Rabbi Yehuda. How can you say the Mishnah is Rabbi Yehuda? Says the Gemara like Kasha, the answer could be like this. The entire Mishnah from beginning to end is Rabbi Yehuda, as we suggested before. And when the Mishnah continues and says that you cannot condition against the Torah, that's referring strictly to non-monetary conditionings, which even according to Rabbi Yehuda you cannot do. Okay, fine. Let's proceed to the next part of the Mishnah, where it says that you have to follow a very specific sequence if you want your condition to take hold. If the Masa was stated before the Tanai, it doesn't work. Who's the author of this concept? Whose opinion is this? Who's the one that holds of this halacha Rab Meir? The Sanya Abba Chalafte Ishkvar Chananya. He quotes Rab Meir. Amam Shur Rab Meir. That it has to be a Tanai. You have to condition before you discuss the Masa. Kaidam Masa. Harida Tanai. So then the Tanai takes hold. But if you reverse it, if you flip it, Masa, you discuss the end result. Kaidam Tanai before you mention the condition. And Tanai, it's too late to make a Tanai at this point. And that's Rab Meir's Shita. And apparently the other Shitas, the other Chacham, including Rabbi Yehuda, disagree with that. So how could our Mishnah be Rabbi Yehuda at the same time present this concept which is strictly Rab Meir's concept? Says the Gemara, you're right. Let's backtrack on that. Ella Kula Rab Meir here, you're right. The entire Mishnah beginning to end is Rab Meir's sheet. So the third part of the Mishnah works, right? It has to be a certain sequence. The second part of the Mishnah which says a Tanai against the Torah is null and void, that works. That's Rab Meir's sheet. Question is the first part of the Mishnah. How could a Shemer Chinam rework the rules? Differences like this. The point is, he He's not really considering himself a proper Shemer. He says, look, I'm going to watch it, but I'm not an official, formal Shemer. So if he's a real Shemer and he decides to make exceptions, that's called a Tanai against the Torah. But if he says, look, I'm not really submitting myself to this task, I'm not formally accepting upon myself these Shmirah commitments, you can do that. So, I'll look after your item, but I'm not really an official, I'm not following the rules, the guidelines of the Shemer Chidam, the Shemer Sach. I'm not accepting upon myself these certain obligations. You can do that. Continues the Gemara, Tana, we learned in a brayso, not only can you downgrade your responsibilities, you can upgrade them as well if you choose. Umasna Shemer Sachar, a Shemer Sachar can say, look, I'm willing to be a shayel, to have the responsibilities of a shayel and being chayiv even for accidents, for oinus. Masna Shemer Sachar is k'shayel. Asks the Gemara, B'mai, how did this commitment take effect? B'dvarim, just by verbals? I mean, just because he said that commits him? You should need more than that. They made a natural kinyan. They exchanged a handkerchief or a sudar. He committed himself to this higher degree of responsibility. Rabbi Yehuda Amar, no, even without a formal kinyan, he can commit himself because he got something in exchange. Why? Because of this benefit, this satisfaction, because when he is entrusted with this item, right? So, the word goes out that he's a trustworthy person, the inish mehemnu. So he establishes a good reputation for himself, and that's worth money. Gomer mishabed nafshi, in exchange for that benefit that he's receiving, he's fully willing to submit himself to this higher level of commitment to become like a shayel, and that works, and that's binding. The last part of the Mishnah tells us that a Tanai, for it to be effective, it has to be practical. Amarav Tavla Marav, Zudivi Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema, that's his personal opinion. That in order for a Tanai to work, it has to be doable. No. You can make a condition that can never be fulfilled. It's something which can't be done, and he conditioned it. Tanai Kaim, it works. Meaning, until you do it, it's not done. The Sanya, Areza Gitech, he gives the Isha the get. Unless you go up to the Rukiya, to the atmosphere, it's not a get. Unless condition that you go down to the depths of the earth. Unless you, in condition that you swallow this 100 stick. It's only a get if you walk across the ocean. So what happens? These aren't practical conditions. In the sky, matznai is a get. If it was fulfilled, then the get is activated. Going the sky matznai, for some reason, this condition was not kept, then too bad. Ain't a get. The get does not take hold. That's the Chachamim Shita. Whereas Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema, well, it's not practical tonight. It has no validity because this is a get regardless. Klal, Amar, Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema, he set a rule as follows: if ultimately this cannot be fulfilled and he conditioned on this, it's just like he's giving her a hard time, just making it difficult, teasing her, but it's not really a proper valid tanai. The get is kosher regardless. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rav. That's how he paskin. Allah Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema, that in order for a tanai to be reckoned with, it has to be doable. Amar Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, Mas Nisan Namedeka. Guess what? Our Mishnah by us supports this opinion, and in fact indicates to us that the halacha adopts Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema's opinion. Why? Diktani, we have a anonymous Mishnah here without a name, which typically reflects the halacha l'maaseh, and it says Kol she'ev shloi l'kameh b'seifei. If a t'nai can be fulfilled ultimately, v'isnol mitchilasa, initially it was set as a condition, t'nai kaim, then it's binding. Let's make a deal. Otherwise not. But if you cannot fulfill it, such as walking across the Atlantic Ocean, t'nai batal, this t'nai is not reckoned with. Shema mina, this proves our point. Hadran aloch hasoicher sapayalim. Says the Mishnah, She'elas apara. A fellow borrows a para, v'sha'al bala ima, and he borrowed its owner along with the animal, meaning the owner made himself available. At your service, I'll come help you with something. So basically, he has the animal with its owner at the same time. Or let's say you hire the owner of the animal as he's using the animal. So that's one option. Or let's say he first took the owner and then the animal. Shal habalim oischar, and first he borrowed, so to speak, the owner, or he hired the owner. And then he went and he borrowed the cow. And something happens when Mesa, the animal dies. Typically, a borrower, a shayl, is chayiv even for oinus. But here, there's an exception. He's potter. You know why? The pasuk said so. Shemer im balav imay lo yishalim. Although typically a shayl is responsible even for an oinus. But if he was using the animal, and at the same time, the owner of that animal was serving him as well, whether by way of just goodwill, he was sort of lending himself out, so to speak, or hiring himself out. So the shayl does not assume full responsibility. It's not your typical standard case, and therefore he's putter from these liabilities. Aval but, says the Mishnah, let's say, when he borrowed the parah, the owner of the parah was not serving the borrower. Only later on, did he take the owner with him. Umeisa, now, if the animal dies, there's no exemption, there's no patur. He's chayev. Shenemar bolav inima, if the owner was not serving the borrower at the time, at this moment when the fellow borrowed the animal, even though he came later, shalim yishalim. So the shayl is chayev if something happens with the animal. Says the Gemara, the Tani Seifa. Let's take a close look at the second part of the Mishnah, where he first took the animal, and then the owner made himself available. Sorry. This is still back to the first part of the Mishnah, right, where he took the animal with the owner. Sounds like the same time. And then it says he took the owner and then the animal. Right? So we're going on that case, not on the last part, on the second case of the first part of the Mishnah. Right? So what does it say? First, he had the owner come along, and then he took the animal. So it wasn't sort of a package deal. It was sequential. Apparently the first case of the Mishnah, which says the Tani Ima, which says it happened at the same time, he borrowed the parah with the owner. Ima, what does Ima mean? Mamash. It was a simultaneous, it was a package thing. Ima mamash mishkachasla. How is that practical? How is that possible? Parah b'mashicha, balam b'amira. Rashi explains that we're assuming the owner said, look, I'm available for you and my animal as well. So he committed himself and his animal. So at that very moment, he made himself available to Shimon. It's called, Shimon is considered as if he borrowed Reuven, but in terms of the taking possession of the animal, and assuming responsibility, and commencing the she'ela period, you have to make an actual physical, take physical possession of the animal. Mashicha, which only happens an hour later when he actually takes possession of the animal. So how could you have a simultaneous package deal involving the owner and the animal? The owner is committing himself from right now. The animal is only assumed to be borrowed from the time of Mashiach, which is later. Parah b'Mashiach, Baal Ma'amir. So we have two terutzim. Ibayisem, one teretz can be like this. Going to Kaima Parah was speaking that the animal was already in the possession, was already sitting in the property, b'chatzer the shayl, the property of Shimon. So he's not lacking. He doesn't have to make a physical act of Mashiach. It's already in his yard. As soon as the owner, Reuven, says, look, I'm available, at your service, come and help you, and my animal as well. At that very moment, the she'ela is triggered both on account of the owner and account of the animal, because the animal is already sitting in the other person's property. You buy same on another pshat to answer this kasha. The Amar Lei was speaking that Shimon told Reuven, At gufach letishal at sha'as m'shichas paroscha. He tells him, look, Ad gufach letishal, I don't want you assuming the status of a it's funny that, I don't say funny, but it's the lashon she'ela on a person, right? You borrow an item, right? But it means to say that he's serving him. He's offering his help, right? So basically, that's called borrow. He's borrowed. He's serving him. He's helping him. So basically, what Shimon is saying to Reuven, look, I don't want you to be borrowed to me until I do Mashiach on your parah. So basically, it's on standby, right? Until Shimon takes the parah. At that very moment, as he's commencing the she'el on the parah, Reuben also becomes Shaul to him as well. Okay, but either way, the Mishnah says it's called Balav Imai, and Shimon does not take full responsibility for this parah if something happens because it was Balav Imai. The owner came along. The halacha changes, and he's pater from Einis. It's non-hustle. Let's go back to that Mishnah we had the other day. Arba Shemrim Hem. We have 4 types of Shemrim. Shemer Chinam, V'ashoyel, Nesusacha, V'aseicher, right? Shemer Chinam is a fellow who is safeguarding an item free of charge, and he has the lowest level of commitment. Nishba ala koil. Whatever happens, he just swears, look, I'm sorry, it was stolen, swears. I wasn't careless, right? V'ashoyel, on the other hand, the other side of the rainbow, you have the shoyel, a fellow who's borrowing an item. He has the most broadest level of commitment. Mishal masakala, pretty much whatever happens, he has to pay for, right? When it comes to these in-between fellows, a fellow who's being paid a fee for guarding an item, or a fellow who's renting an item. So here it's a split situation. On the one hand, nishboin ala shvura, if there was an oinus that happened, such as if the animal broke down, or it was taken captivity by an armed bandit, or it died, that's an oinus. So they're exempt as long as they swear to substantiate their story. On the other hand, if it gets lost or stolen, they're chayiv, they have to pay. Not immediately. How do we know that there are so many different levels and so many different guidelines? The Tana Rabbana, we have the following brayso. If you take a close look in parshas Mishpat, Mishmois Chav Beis, we have 3 parshas, 3 sections there, all describing a fellow who has his friend's item under his care. Parsha Rishayna, never b'shem Chinam. So the first section in the Torah, which speaks about a fellow not really being too responsible for an item, that's a Shemer Chinam, who's not getting paid for his services. Shniya, the second chapter there, which discusses a fellow who is somewhat more responsible, he's chayiv if it gets lost or stolen, that's a Shemer Sachar. Shlish is a third parasha which indicates that he's totally responsible, pretty much under all circumstances except for Ba'alav Imai. That's discussing a fellow who's borrowing an item. B'shoyel. How do we know this is true? B'shleima shlish is b'shoyel mafurish. Oh, certainly the fact that the third section relates to a shoyel, that's pretty clear in the pasuk. Look what it says. Right? He borrows an item, something happens, Ba'alav Imai, unless the owner's around, he's got to pay. Shalom yishalom. So it's pretty clear. The third parasha, which with this increased, the highest level of responsibility, relates to a shoyel. But what about the other parshas? You're suggesting that the first parsha is a Shemer Chinam, second is a Shemer Sachar. Maybe we'll flip it around. Says the Gemara, no. It can't be. Mistavra, it's probable that Shniya b'Shemer Sachar, that the second parsha relates to a Shemer Sachar. You know why? Because in the second parsha we discuss a person who's responsible upon losing or having the item stolen. That makes sense that it's going on a Shemer Sachar who's getting paid for his services. So that increases and upgrades his level of commitment. Adarabba, if anything, the other way around, says the Gemara. Listen to this. Rishayna b'Shemer Sachar. Maybe the first parsha is going on a Shemer Sachar. Because although in the first parsha we have no indication of liability for Gneva Vaveda, but guess what? There's a flip side to that too. A Shemer Chinam, who's not chayev if something gets stolen, right? But if he claims that it got stolen and he really stole it himself, guess what happens? He has to pay double, right? If he claims that it was stolen, he makes a shvua, he swears to substantiate that claim, and he turns out that he was the ganim, he has to pay kefir. We learned it from Psukim, remember in Bava Kama, right? So in the first parsha, we have an exemption. We don't hold him responsible for Geneva, but there's a flip side to it. If it turns out that it was a false claim, that can trigger double payment. So in a way, there's potential for a much grander level of payment and liability in the first parsha. If you pretended that it was stolen. Now you don't have in the second parsha of a Shemer Sachar, because if you claim, as soon as he claims it was stolen, he has to pay. He has to pay the Karen, the actual principal. There's no way out of that. So perhaps we should attribute the first section with that potential double payout to a Shemer Sachar because of his heightened, liability because he's getting paid. Whereas the second parsha, we're just paying outright one time. There's no potential for double payout. Maybe that's a Shemer Chinam with that lower, minimal level of liability. After Yehuda says there were no. Even so, even though there's potential for double payout, but you know what? Until you get there, it's a long road. Karnabla Shvua, the first parsha, the second parsha, which says, look, as soon as it's stolen, write out a check for the actual value of the item. Adifa. That's a better deal than the other parsha, Mikfela B'Shvua, which can theoretically get to kefil if he swears and the whole deal until he gets to it. So, the payout in the second parsha is more practical. It's more closer to home. Than the first parasha, which involves a whole procedure where he denied and he pretended and he made a shvua. Yeah, it can come to more. And there's potential for more income. But a lot of steps to go through to get there. So it's probable that the second parasha, which entails a more immediate payout, is going on a Shemer Sachar with a heightened level of liability, as opposed to the first parasha, which is going on a Shemer Chinam. Teda, I'll prove to you my point. That Keren, the actual quick payout, is considered more realistic, more tangible, more worthwhile than the other one. Teda, the Hashoyel Kal Nashaloi. Take a look at a shoyel. We pretty much established, pretty clear, right? That a shoyel is fully responsible, right? And the Gemara describes him as Kal Nashaloi. It's all gain, no pain, right? He's using the item free of charge. So if anything, he should be the most committed, right? To protect the owner's property. Ve'ena Mishalem El Keren. And a shoyel can never come to kefil. As soon as he admits, as soon as we know that he's got to pay it out. So apparently it's a good deal. It's more worthwhile because we give it to the shoyel, right? We give this element of responsibility to the shoyel. We apply this concept to a shoyel. Apparently, that's the best for the owner. It's the best system. So likewise, regarding our question, first parsha, which has that potential double pay, second parsha, which has that straightaway single pay, it makes sense that a Shemer Sachar, who's more responsible, more chayev, more liable, should be pegged onto the second parsha. Asks the Gemara just a question on your language. You said a shoyel is kol hano shaloi, all pain, no gain. Sorry, all gain, no pain. V'ashoyel kol hano shaloyu. What do you mean? He has to take care of the animal. He's got to feed his animal, the animal that he borrowed. We're speaking that he's living out in the swamp. It's all free. What do you mean? He has to take care, has to watch it? But not Masa. Speaking about a city watchman. He's anyways looking after all the animals, so it's not really adding to his work. Or you can say like this: instead of saying all gain, well, for the most part, he's gaining because he's using the animal free of charge. True, it has some there's some downside to it, but for the most part, right? Another way to explain this phrase, it's going on a fellow who borrowed a car, b'she'elas kelim. He's borrowing a utensil, a container, where he doesn't need to feed it or anything like that. Okay. Now, sachar v'hasoich nishbayin ala shvura v'ala shvuya v'ala mesa. So the Brisa says, the Mishnah says that a sachar, a soicher, when it comes to shvura, the animal literally means broke. It got damaged, it got hurt, it got injured. V'ala shvuya, if it was captured by bandits, armed bandits, if it died suddenly. So that's an oines and they're pat. But if it gets lost or stolen, then they have to pay it out. How do we know this? So certainly if it gets stolen, they're chayav. If it was stolen from his care, he's got to pay. What about a lost item? Who says he's chayav for that? The Sanya, we have a brisa like this. Im gonav yigonev. That's sort of a duplicate lashon. So it would seem that it's strictly speaking about the stolen item. What about if it was lost? It's a double lashon to include aveda as well. That works according to the opinion that holds that, Amrina, we don't say dibra Torah klashon me'adam when Torah speaks in such a poetic way. It's not a way to explain the pasuk. You don't say the Torah is speaking the way people commonly speak, meaning if there's some sort of duplicative type of expression, there's some deeper meaning and we have to dwell on it. So here as well, one is going on Kneva, one is going on Aveda. Good. According to the other opinion, which says the Torah sometimes adopts this like sort of a poetic, twist to it. The Torah does use these, type of styles, in which case, Michael Amema, we don't seem to have an extra pasuk now. So how do we know that if Shemer Sara loses an item, he's responsible? Amri b'Marabas in Eretz Yisrael, they said like this. Here's the source: through a kal v'chaymer. Uma gneva shekrei v'loines mishalem. Look, we've just established that even if it was stolen, which is closer to an accident than to negligence. I mean, it got stolen, right? Still, he has to pay. Aveda shkrev l'pshil l'koshkin. Certainly, if it was lost, he dropped it. That's closer to carelessness than to an accident, right? Certainly, that should be more reason for liability. Okay, so we know it from this kal v'chaymer. We don't need a pasuk. Now, the other opinion, which actually learned this from a pasuk that we just said. So, why do we need a pasuk? Why do we need the extra yimganim? If we have a kal v'chaymer, answers the Gemara with a classic response. Mulsa the asher b'kal v'chaymer. Sometimes even a halacha that can theoretically be derived from a kal v'chaymer. Torach because of the Torah makes the effort to spell it out. Okay. Now, v'hashoyel mishal masakar. We've established the halachas of the Shemer Chinam, of the Shemer Sara. What about the shoyel? He's fully responsible for anything that happens. Bishleim shvura meisa. I understand by shvura meisa is chayv tachsiv. Pasuk says so. If you borrow an item, and this is what happens, v'nishbar or meis, you have to pay. Elo shvuya. What about the third item? If it was taken by armed bandits. B'shoyel minol. How do we know that a shoyel is responsible? Perhaps we'll say like this: neilach mishvura meisa. We'll compare it to the other two items. Well, no, Malo Shvura Mesa. There's good reason why Shvura Mesa triggers liability. Because these are things that commonly happen, and the fact that he did not clearly stipulate that he's not assuming responsibility for these types of incidents indicates that he's submitting himself to that type of responsibility as well. The Salaka Daitu, a term Shvuya, as opposed to an item which was forcibly stolen. She can't answer the Salaka Daitu. The Ishel is not fathoming that this will happen to him, right? So when he's accepting responsibility, he has no reason to think about it. His lack of articulation and stipulation doesn't indicate that he's willing to submit himself to this type of responsibility. So how do we know that Yishayel is chayev by shvuya? Answers the Gemara Ella, rather it's as follows. Nemra shvura omesa b'shoyel. We find that a shoyel is responsible for the other items. V'nemra shvura omesa b'shemer sachar. And likewise by shemer sachar we find the same thing, and we say like this: Ma'ala halon shvuya, just like by the shemer sachar. His responsibility is not limited to shvura omesa, right? Shvuya is included as well, as the psukim by shemer sachar tell us, right? Af kan here as well by the shoyel. We have no reason to differentiate. It's a package deal. If you're chayev for shvura and mesa, shvuya imo yechayev for shvuya as well. Asks the Gemara, hold it. Who says you can compare a shoyel to a shemer sachar? Ikal mifra, we can ask like this: Malo shemer sachar shken l'ftur. By shemer sachar, he's potter, right? He's potter for shvura and mesa, and also potter for shvuya, right? So we sort of compare we say like this: just like by shemer sachar, they all go together. Whatever happens to shvura and mesa happens to shvuya as well. In all three cases, he's potter. Likewise, by shoyel, on the flip side, it is chayev for shvura and mesa. We don't differentiate between those two and shvuya. So pretty much, they all go together, one way or the other. Oh, on that the Gemara asks, what do you mean? Ikal mifcha? Now we can certainly refute this connection, this comparison. Malo shemer sachar sheken liftur. By shemer sachar, we're comparing, right, shvuya to the other items to exempt him from liability. And that makes sense because, as we said before, he didn't think about this to talk about it, right? As opposed to by the shoyel, where you're trying to compare the shvuya to the other two in terms of making him liable for all three. That's a chiddush. How can you do that? Perhaps you can say that he's less liable by shvuya, as we explained, because it's not something which he would, right? Says the Gemara, okay, so we're still looking for a source that a shoyel is chayev by shvuya. The animal under his care was captured by armed bandits. Ella rather Reb Nasan, the son of Nasan Aimer. Oh yeah, it's right. It says v'nishbar oimes, right? So the word oi is an extra word, and tells us that that we include the shvuya as well. Oi l'rabbis shvuya. Asks the Gemara, but this oi word is already been used up for something else. Hay oi miboyle l'chalik. It's needed to split. Split what? Because the pasuk says v'nishbar oimes, right? The Sakha Tachmena, perhaps I would learn the pasuk like this: Ad the mitbra umeis olam chayev. That a shayla is only chayev if both things happen. The animal got injured and then it died. Okay, so he's really careless, really negligent. Then he's chayev. That's what I would think. Kamash Malan, that's what the Torah adds the word oy. No, it's one or the other. Either way is chayev. So basically, the oy has been used up, unavailable for our drasha. Now, hanichal Rabbi Yehuda. So we're not really done it, because according to Rabbi Yehuda, you don't need an actual full oy to split two things. Even a vav would be enough to split the two. So if it's just a matter of splitting, the Torah could have said v'nishbar umes. The oy is an extra word coming to include what we're looking for. El Rabbi Yesha, according to Rabbi Yesha, coming up soon in the Brisa, who says that really in order to effectively split two words, you have to insert the word oy in totality. So the oy is coming for that, and unavailable for our drasha. Where do we find this discussion? The Sanya, we have a totally different sugya when it comes to cursing a father or mother. Ish asher yikal es aveves imay. Right? A person does that to his father, to his mother, he gets misa. Now, if only from this pasuk, I would say, Ein li ela avev v'imay. Perhaps he's only liable to this punishment if he curses father and mother. What about one without the other? Avev b'lay imay, or imay b'lay avev. Menayin, how do we know this applies? Tamalayma avev imay kilel. So here the word imay is next to kilel, and in the other portion of the pasuk we have isha sheikal es avev. We have the reference to the klal near the father. We learn that either way, either the klal is to the father or to the mother is chayiv. Avev kilel, imay kilel. And that's whose opinion? Div Rabbi Yeshua. Because according to Rabbi Yeshua, without the word oy, we can't split. So when the pasuk says isha sheikal es avev ve'es imay, perhaps it would mean dafka if he curses both. Rabbi Yehuda, no. He says even without an oy, you can split the two. Right? It says this, the vav is enough to split. Mashma shneim ke'echad. The pasuk can be alluding to a case where he cursed them both. Mashma echad pnei atzma, or he cursed them one at a time, meaning just one without the other. Right? The vav is enough to split them. Unless the Torah says yachtav. The word yachtav indicates that it's really together, like Rashi says by the Kilayim when he's chayrish with the shar chamar yachtav. So the word yachtav really, connects the two. But without yachtav, as avev v'es imay indicates separation. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, we're good, because by the shoyl it says v'nishbar oymes. It didn't have to say oy to separate them. It could just have v'nishbar v'mes. It would be this or the other. Oy is an extra word coming to include shavuya. He's liable for that too. But according to Rabbi Yosha, you need the oy to indicate that v'nishbar oymes means one or the other. Otherwise, you would say you need the animal to break down and to die. So the word oy is already used for this point and unavailable. Says the Marfil Tim Rabbi Yeshua, it can work even according to him. Because in our story of the Shoyl, you don't need a special oy that is chayav for shvura or for mesa. My time, you know why svara? Just it's plain logic. Why would you need the animal to first be injured and then die? I mean, if the animal dies, is chayev, right? If the animal fully dies, is chayev. If the animal partially dies, meaning if it's injured, either way, it's the same thing. right? If it's fully dead or half dead, right? So basically, there would be no svara to say, right? So even if we would just say v'nishbar or meis, I would understand that he's chayiv for nishbar without meis. Just like if it's fully dead, he's chayiv. If it's half dead, he's also chayiv. Oh, so why does the pasuk say oy? To include shvuya. And Hashem is chayiv for shvuya as well. Okay, let's recap today's daf. We began with the sugya of Tanai. Masna Mashakasa Bater Tanai Bottle, according to Rabbi Yehuda, if it's Davar Shabbat Tanai Kaim. Our mission, the Gemara concludes, could be even according to Rabbi Yehuda. Shemer Chinam and the rest can change the rules of the game because they're not submitting themselves to more than they're interested in accepting upon themselves. Just like a shayl can downgrade his responsibilities, he can upgrade it as well. And we pass like Rabbi Yehuda Tema, Tanai can only have validity if it is practical and doable. We continued into the next parak. We learned about Baal of Imoy, right? If the owner comes along with the animal that exempts the shayl, we proceeded to the analysis of the mission of the Abar Shemer and the respective halachas, based on the fact that there are 3 parshas. Shemer Chinam has his liability, Shemer Sachar his, and a shayl his. All the best to you, Atzlach.